It was meant to be the war to end all wars. But just 20 years later, the world was on fire again. Economic collapse, rising dictators, a world too afraid to act. From the streets of Berlin to the deserts of Africa and the skies above Britain, the greatest conflict in human history was about to begin. This is the complete story of World War II, told in 4 epic parts. And it starts here, with the road to war. World War II didn't erupt out of thin air. It was the aftershock of a world still bleeding from the First World War. A war that had promised to be the war to end all wars, but instead left bitterness, political chaos, and economic ruin. When the Treaty of Versailles was signed in 1919, it placed crushing reparations on Germany, 132 billion gold marks, stripping away territory, military power, and dignity. For millions of Germans, this treaty wasn't peace. It was humiliation. In the 1920s, Germany's fragile democracy, the Weimar Republic, struggled to survive. Inflation spiraled so wildly that in 1923, people carried wheelbarrows full of money just to buy bread. But by 1929, the Great Depression hit the entire world. In Germany, unemployment soared to over 6 million. Fear and desperation became fertile ground for extremist voices. In January 1933, Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany. A decorated World War I veteran, a gifted and dangerous speaker, he promised to restore German pride, rebuild the military, and overturn the hated Versailles Treaty. His message was simple: Germany had been betrayed, and only he could make it great again. Within months, the Nazis outlawed opposition parties, controlled the press, and created a one-party dictatorship. Hitler's new Germany began rearming, in direct violation of the Versailles Treaty. Meanwhile, other nations were also turning to aggression. In 1931, Japan invaded Manchuria, setting up a puppet state called Manchukuo. In 1935, Mussolini's Italy invaded Ethiopia, using poison gas against civilians. The League of Nations, the world's peacekeeping body, condemned these actions but took no real steps to stop them. It was a dangerous message to would-be aggressors. The world was unwilling or unable to enforce peace. In March 1936, Hitler made his boldest move yet, sending troops into the Rhineland, a demilitarized zone between Germany and France. Under the treaty, this was strictly forbidden. French and British forces could have easily stopped him. His generals had orders to retreat if challenged, but nothing happened. Hitler later said, "The 48 hours after the march into the Rhineland were the most nerve-wracking of my life." Years later, in March 1938, Hitler annexed Austria in what became known as the Anschluss. Again, no one stopped him. Many Austrians even welcomed the German troops with flowers and salutes. Then came the Sudetenland crisis. Hitler demanded control of a German-speaking region in Czechoslovakia. Europe stood on the brink of war. But in September 1938, leaders from Britain, France, Italy, and Germany met in Munich. The result was the Munich Agreement, giving Hitler the Sudetenland in exchange for a promise of no further expansion. British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain returned home declaring, "Peace for our time." But to Hitler, it was just the beginning. Only 6 months later, Hitler broke his promise, taking the rest of Czechoslovakia. Now it was clear, his ambitions went far beyond uniting German-speaking lands. That summer, the world was shocked when Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union, bitter ideological enemies, signed the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. Hidden in its secret protocol was a plan to divide Poland between them. At dawn on September 1st, 1939, German forces stormed into Poland from the west, while Soviet forces prepared to invade from the east. Hitler unleashed his new strategy, the Blitzkrieg, or Lightning War, combining fast-moving tanks, air power, and coordinated ground assaults. 2 days later, Britain and France declared war on Germany. The deadliest conflict in human history had begun. The world had once hoped that the Great War would be the last. But as the 1930s ended, humanity stood on the edge of a catastrophe far greater than anyone could imagine.